Hi, in this video, we're going to talk about the solving trig equations objective. The practice will be on page 411, number 51 through 56. As you notice, now we have equations and not expressions like the previous objective. We can clearly see the equal sign, and we are solving, which means finding the solution, the x value, which is an angle, and that's why we need the unit circle, because this objective is done without a calculator, and I'm going to find the x value using the unit circle. I start by looking at this equation and I say there is a cotan x, which I can rewrite as a cosine over sine. And I can write the left side of the equation, and I can clearly see that I am allowed to cross the sine x on both sides of the equation. One thing I would be careful about is that sine x is a denominator, and denominator can't be 0. So what does this mean? The sine of an angle equals 0 in two options, for angle 0 and angle pi. So those two angles are not allowed. I'm not allowed to get an answer that includes 0 or pi. We call them excluded values, restrictions, and those are the not allowed values. Now, there's no one way to solve all equations, but there's a golden rule to keep in mind. We can equal the equation to 0. We can factor and solve using something we call zero product theorem that you've been using for so long. Maybe not with trig expressions, but we used it a lot before. First of all, this equation does not equal to 0, so to make it equal to 0, I'm going to subtract cosine x on each side. Now I'm going to factor it, so I'm going to look for a common factor. And clearly, the common factor is cosine x. I will have cosine squared minus 1 in the parentheses. And always remember, if this confuses you, take a t as an example. T cubed minus t, I usually factor it using t as a common factor. You'll be left with t squared minus 1. Now it's equal to 0. I factored it. Now it's time to solve. So cosine x equals 0 and cosine squared minus 1 equals 0. Cosine equals 0. Which angle on the unit circle has x coordinate equals 0? We can see that it's pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. With this one, I'm going to have to add 1 on each side. And 0 plus 1 is just 1. Then square root, you get cosine equal plus or minus 1. So cosine x equals 1. Which angle on the unit circle has an x coordinate equal 1? I can see that it's angle 0. And x coordinate equals -1. I can see that it's angle pi. But what do we know about those two values? Those two values are not allowed